I think it's been great. It's a really rare situation where there's not too much to do, as you can probably see. But it's been great just for work, and you get to see everybody's personality when you're in that environment. So I think it's really important for us as a team that everybody's is like this. It's hard work. Pre-season's hard. You train twice a day. You train hard. The intensity is high. The running's high. Everything you try and do, you try and be the best you can. I think that's been important for us.
How much of it is geared towards fitness? Because obviously there's a lot of messages you guys need to put across as well.
It's a mixture of everything, really. The fitness levels, the tactical stuff, the technical stuff, everything. But it's a way of life, really. You know, it's how you live your life and how you want to really buy into it and really embrace it. So I think that's a mixture of everything. I said when you have 30 odd people or 40 people in the one area, the one trip, and you're on top of each other all the time, you tend to find out a lot about people and how they react. And you let people be themselves, and then you see the good things and you see maybe the not so good things.
Leave the water out. See if we later stuff. That's what I'm saying. Just want to transfer that load across now. So it's here. Little quick movements.
I think over the last 5-6 years, football players do come back better now. They come back in better condition. We can tell when if they've put on any kind of weight at all with obviously their body weight and their body fat. If that changes, then we know that they've not been doing the programmes that we've been giving them. But unbelievably, they've done really well again this season, and they're very, very lean, and that gives you a big chance to kick on. It helps our programme as we kick on, because it means that we don't need to do as much running, we can go straight into the football.
I guess is that how football's changed a little bit, that you no longer need to get them running up hills and all that kind of stuff. It is.
Yeah, well, as an old manager used to say to me, there's no hills in a football park. So I tend to stay away from hills, especially the first part of pre-season, because the chances of injuring your calf and any other muscle groups are higher. So it's not to say that we'd avoid some incline if you're doing some runs like that, but we certainly wouldn't be doing much of that, especially in the pre-season phases.
How else has football changed in pre-season since you've been in the game?
I think just the technology now. I think especially Ipswich have the technology of a Premier League football club. So they have the Apex system, which allows us to monitor just the intensity of all the sessions, and that's really helpful for our football training, the day-to-day football training, so that we can look at that loading day-to-day and then give that to the manager, give the feedback to the manager and see how those sessions are actually working out. And it helps us really to see how successful any plans or any kind of conditioning that we want to do in there, or any kind of football training, to see if we're hitting the markers.
I see yourself, Ben and Jacob on the iPads. What kind of metrics are you getting from those?
Well, the main metrics we're looking at is obviously the loading on that. We're looking at the high intensity work that they're doing, like so the high speed work. So that's high speed running. We're looking at the speed, that's the sprint speed, which is over 7 metres a second. And again, we're just looking at the total volume of training, the time that they're actually on their feet. And we look at these metrics very, very closely and give that feedback to the manager. If we think that it's getting too high, obviously we can give that information to the manager and he can react to that.
Is that all tailored to each player? Or
It is actually. General? What we do is we base that on because they wear the GPS system on the match day, we individually look at their data so that each player has an individual loading and enough high speed running in the games so we'll look at his very best case scenario and we base everything off that.
Are you still somebody that trusts your eye more than the technology?
Not really. I still, I'd probably go more towards the technology now. I think in early days we'd have looked at watches and times, and it's not to say that managers don't know that. I think all we've really done as fitness coaches and sports scientists is add the numbers to the actual what they do. I think football coaches and some good fitness coaches will know what they're trying to achieve there, but having that live system in place, that Apex system that we have, StatSport, is invaluable, you know, and that helps as it tells exactly, because sometimes your eye can deceive you and you don't realise how hard they're actually working.
There's been a few different things since we've been out here as well. How important is it to vary it up for the players?
Yeah, well, you know, we're trying to, you know, we had some paintball. That's definitely a team bonding.
That was a lot more physical.
That was a lot more
expected.
physical. There was a couple of cowards in that. I basically found out some cowards in my team that day, and I tried to make a few mad runs and quickly look back and nobody was there. So we've done a lot of team bonding. We vary it up by doing some pool sessions. We do obviously have the strength sessions, so we've brought Jeff along here, who's our full-time strength and conditioning coach. So there's a combination of a lot of types of training, as well as the football training as well.
How else, obviously you touched on a few things earlier, how much have you had to adapt to new technologies and everything like that?
I think you have to adapt. I think if you fail to adapt, you won't be doing the job long, and I've been doing the job quite a number of years now, so I think it's important for me. I enjoy adapting anyway. I think I want to learn all the time. I think you can learn all the time. Every team, every football team that you go into is very, very different. So you need to adapt to the players that you have. There's no use working. You know, I've had some teams I've worked with in the Premier League and that. You can't expect players to hit some of the markers immediately that you come to a football club. That takes time, and then you can develop that.
Obviously, as the games start coming in a bit more regularly now, how will the programmes change?
Well, obviously this is a phase where we're trying to get as much volume of training in. There's a lot of technical and tactical work that we're doing just now. But we still need to be careful that there's a limit on what they can do weekly. So we have to adapt that. There's obviously, because you're not getting a 90-minute game immediately, and you're not doing that weekly, then we can do a lot more training day to day. But we still need to be, it's still very, very important that we look at how much they can actually do on that particular week. For instance, since we started, I think at the 24th, up until yesterday, we'd hit over 100 kilometres of football training, which is obviously a lot of time on your feet.
We'll try and go then, so that we're not stopping and then going again. Right, so it'll be a little jog, a couple of minutes, and then we'll use that first one to really try and get going. Alright, that's normally what happens. Yes! On you go! Alright. That's good, Judge. Judge hit 90 now. Judge is the first one. Who else can get there now? Get up, that's the one. Don't worry about that. How long?
Nur schon mal so als Vorwarnung, dass es uns treffen kann, dass gesagt da dann auch
Probably like the best situation for both of them. They're playing one stadium, and you've got to travel that far. Because obviously the Clippers and the Moscow share the stadium.
They share the same stadium.
We primarily do data analysis side of things, so every session the players wear a GPS and a heart rate, and that gives us an idea of the physical demands of the session. And then with that we'll live feed as well, so we can look at what kind of metrics and zones the players are working in. They've all got individualised heart rate zones, and so the coaches may have a certain type of run that they want the players to do, and then we can see if they're hitting those markers. So the managers and the coaches are really invested in it, which is obviously good for us because we're collecting all this data, and sometimes we don't get to show it all or demonstrate it all. But it's even better for us when the players are invested in it as well. So they come to us a lot more now asking to see their data, and it's good that they see that it's being put to good use, because sometimes they wear all this technology and they question why they're wearing it. So now we've got the data and we've got reports so we can actually show them, so they can see what they're hitting, and they can obviously try and aim higher, or if we need them to tailor off a bit. It's particularly important during pre-season as well, because obviously we want to gradually increment their load, so it helps us prevent them from overloading, but also from under-training as well.
You work quite closely with Jim Henry, the fitness coach, as well, don't you?
Yeah, massively. So Jim's right above us, and obviously he heads everything up, but we help him out where we can with setting all the training data up, setting the GPS and the heart rates. But he's been really good for us in particular, because obviously he's been in football for about 25 years or however long it is. So we've managed to learn a lot from him. But yeah, it's been good working under him.
Jacob, yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do at the club.
Me and Ben pretty much work as a duo from, getting all the GPS units out, charged, make sure all the players are wearing them, we'll monitor, what's done in the session, look at live feed, collect them back in, and then after training what we'll do is we'll download the GPS units, and then from there we can start producing reports for the coaches, for Jim, what he wants to see in a report, and also the gaffer.
So alongside heart rate and all that, what other things can you measure from the players?
So obviously the heart rate, you measure the heart rate, but in terms of the GPS, there's thousands of metrics which is collected by the unit. So whether it's total distance they cover at certain speeds, other big ones we look at, accelerations, deaccelerations, all those different metrics which you look at will differ depending on the type of training session and whether you want to implement and focus on maybe one metric in a type of day, and where it is in terms of how far or how close it is to the game day, which is going to be pretty important coming to next season where the games come thick and fast. So monitoring how the players and where they are at during the week is thoroughly important, really.
So it's a big part of football now, isn't it, the data side of it, and managers and coaches really.
Yeah, massively. And our coaches and the manager himself are actually really invested in it now. I know some managers don't really have time for it, but it seems this year in particular that we've spent more time.
Who is that? Who is it?
I don't know.
It's right.
You're prolonging this process out.
Yeah, so coaches and is that what I've got? So managers and coaches, they take it. It's a big part of football now, and that's comes from us.
Yeah, so the gaffers and the coaches in particular this year are quite invested in it.
This is going bleepers section.
Oh.
It's a hard 12 days it's been by the end of it. So, but it's one of those, I think throughout the course of the season, I've been on a lot of pre-season trips, and they always do what they say on the tin sort of thing, bring the lads together, and this living in each other's pockets I think it's been well documented. There's not a lot to do around here. It is exactly what the gaffer wanted, we're all together, everything we do, and I think that's how it's got to be for the season if we want to achieve what success we're craving for. So it's been great, and I think it was at times people get a bit tetchy with each other, in each other's pockets. But I think in the long run it's a really good positive thing, and we've got some great training working as well, which was the main thing for it.
Not just football, we had paintball, and there's been a few quite a lot up singing as well, which all plays part.
That's what you call it. I'm not sure some of it was singing, I'll be honest. But no, like you say, it's been great. We've had the bonding bits in between the training as well, because the lads have worked their socks off, to be fair. The volume they've put in, the volume of work in the 12 days has been incredible. So we needed a couple of days away from it just to keep everyone sane and go and have a bit of fun. But the paintballing was a particular highlight. It was great, and I know the lads had a couple of afternoons off, or one afternoon off and one day in 12, so they've had a good go. But I think if you'd have said to me at any point, or the missus had said to me that we're going bike riding to Aldi and that'd be a highlight, I'd have thought she was mental, but that was actually been a highlight, biking to Aldi, because there's not a lot else about.
Obviously you've got the goalkeepers and you're off in your own little bit, so how is that working aside from everyone else?
Listen, that's what we know. It's great to do. I mean, goalkeeping, the roles changed a lot nowadays, especially the way we like to play as well. Is a big focal point of starting our attacks, a goalkeeper. So it's not just where you go off and like in the old days and you'd train for an hour on your own and you batter for ups and downs and agility work. There's still some of that. I still like to keep a bit of old school, but is more I'll try and do what they're going to replicate in games, and then it'll go into with the manager's session. replicating how we're going to play and how we're going to defend and how we're going to start the attack. So they're a lot more involved with the team nowadays. I think it's important, that that's rightly so as well.
Are you finished or are you done? That's the Birdman interview, isn't it? Oh. Skip. Are you playing? Are you playing? There he is. There's my Skip.
Boys, hey guys, that's us. Lads, that's us. Laid off for him. Yeah, that's me. Listen to me. 2-2. Come on, stop smouldering, man, for the camera. Keep them on it, boys. Last point, right? Last point you ever had.
It's back again. 10 o'clock, Love Island.
Every time you get made, you get a song. Three songs. Hey, hang on. No. You get 3 songs. Every time you get made. This is what we want. 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. No, it's not me.
So I'm performance analyst with the first team. Day-to-day role is working with the manager and the coaching staff to review games and our performance, as well as looking ahead at opposition and the season ahead. So day-to-day just supporting the coaching staff and the manager.
How do you do in the kind of build-up to matches specifically?
At this time of the season, not so much on the opposition. We're more focusing on ourselves and what we want to apply to our game. But going into the season, we'll be heavily looking at the opposition week in, week out, their strengths and weaknesses, how we can impose ourselves on them, where we can exploit them, and areas that we need to work on during the week in terms of the manager's game plan, and feed in the information as we go into the game.
George, on to you as well. Just tell us a little bit about the role that you do at the club.
So when the manager first came in, obviously Will had a lot of work to do, so he obviously had faith in me to bring me up, and now I kind of assist Will in his role. A large part of my role is the post-match side of things, obviously the reviewing of games, obviously notably a lot more training in pre-season, whether that's unit work, whether that's teamwork, whether that's individual feedback to players, but that's sort of a large part of my role really, and like Will said, assisting the coaches, the players, just looking at how we can optimise that post-match process, how players best learn, and whether that's in an informal setting, whether that's getting them in the classroom as a unit, looking at individual targets, that side of things really.
What sort of information is it you give to the players?
So it could be technical, tactical, even psychological to a degree. Sort of getting them in. Obviously, we work very closely with Stu, Gilly, and the manager in that process. They'll take a lot of ownership on that. But just sort of getting into the sort of nitty gritty, if you like, of the unit, how the manager wants us to play as a team, and what their individual roles are.
Well, how does the analysis side affect training and the preparing for training?
It's been good since the manager's come in. We've kind of got a real process of where we give lads information before training. We can film training now, analyse it while we're out there, bring it back in. The feedback that the coaches have got off the back of that session, we can then break it down with the video, use it when needed to show the players a different perspective. It might be easier to show lads the video rather than outside at times to get certain points across. So it's a real part of the process now where the coach can feed in information before training, obviously have it while they're out on the grass, as well as the video feedback afterwards. We can then sit down, discuss it with the coach and staff and imply things, and it's just part of that process that we're trying to get certain details of information through to the players, and it's just that constant way of feeding back. Some players take things in differently, so they might need that one-to-one on the grass, or they might prefer to sit back and watch it back in their own time, or with a member of staff or in their units. So it's just adding another layer to the information we can provide, and just keep continuing trying to build that detail that the manager and the coach and staff are after on the training pitch, and then implementing that into the games during pre-season, and ultimately to hit the ground running when the season starts.
George, do some players take a bit more interest in it than the others, or are they all kind of forced to take a real interest?
I think naturally you're always going to get players that are a bit more intrigued than others. Like a lot of the experienced lads don't always find and that they can reflect in their performance in different ways, whereas the younger lads need a lot more development. As we know, we've got a few younger lads in the setup, which is brilliant, but they do require a lot more sort of help, if you like. Obviously Gilly takes a lot of ownership on that process as coach, and work closely with him about bringing them lads in, showing them what the manager wants. Obviously, cause under previous regimes, the academy might be slightly different, and the first team setup is very different to an academy setup, so it's important they get to grips with that very quickly. So ultimately, it's just about sort of that development process, really.
Well, how much video footage do you go through in a typical week?
Typical week, working week. Yeah, typically we'd probably watch our own game back. Predominantly that's with George, obviously like I said, the post-match side of things, but again I'd probably go through that as well. Then we're looking at the opposition, probably minimum 3 matches of the opposition through video, but again we'll share the load slightly, but predominantly that'd be myself. But then again, like I say, there's 2 games a week a lot of the time, so you're looking at 5-6 games reviewed, analysed, fed back, and all ultimately just for certain things that are going to hopefully make a difference at the weekend or help our lads out in terms of their performance, and continually developing alongside the coaching process. So yeah.
Just tell us a little bit about the software that you use, because I've seen you use it and you're constantly plotting points, and what is it you're doing there?
So essentially right from the start you obviously need the footage, so filming with cameras up on the gantries, and we've got a decent facility here that we can use to capture the footage. We use sports code to code everything, break it all down, and then that allows us to then pick where we want to go with the clips, feed it back to certain staff, units, individuals or a team. From there we've got different ways of feeding it back. We have telestration software where we can add animation to the video, which enhances it maybe for feedback for certain players in certain environments. Which is Coach Paint, which has been really useful for us, and build it in more and more as we go. We do little different ways of showing things. It might be animations as well as video, or slides that are related to certain areas of the game, set pieces for example, or patterns of play. So we do have different ways of feeding back to get that stimulus, to keep the lads sort of, keep their concentration. And also, like I said, certain lads might find different ways a little bit more suitable to their needs. So predominantly sports code, coach paint, keynote, that sort of thing for presentations.
First day, lads made me feel right at home. Feel like I've spoken to everybody, and I get on with everyone, which is obviously great going into the new season. It's going to be important to have a good change room, and the first people I spoke to when I first left training was, I just said, this is a great changing room. It's important that we get fit. They're tapering the sessions to make sure we start the season well and sharp and fit, and that's going to be important. We've got to come out the traps flying. If we want to achieve what we're setting out to achieve.
You were out with the gaffer doing shooting today. What's he had to say to you so far?
He's been brilliant. He's obviously settling in, checking up on me, and he's just calming me down. I had a good season last year. It's the first time I've touched the ball in 6 weeks, and I'm getting frustrated with myself that things aren't flying into the top corners. But I sort of found my rhythm towards the end of the session, and I'm looking forward to doing it again tomorrow.
Talk us through your edge. You've had a hair transplant, haven't you?
I have, yeah. Just falling out at the minute. Just did set pieces then, and had to head about 30 balls, which hurt a little bit. But yeah, sort of going a little bit too early for myself. So got some new hairs put in, and hopefully in 3 to 6 months I'll be back.
Basically, I'm going to be doing the end stage rehab roles. So basically just branching from, taking on from BY, taking them outside on the grass, doing a bit of strength and conditioning, getting them through that, and then hopefully progressing on to gym to go back into full training.
You're obviously relatively new to the club. You've just joined last week.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your background in football.
So previously I was at Bury Football Club for 11 years, so I came in from university there and worked my way through to being the head physio at the time there. Yeah, so I've had a long stint there.
Obviously a difficult time at Bury at the minute, but I'm sure you'll be looking forward to going back when we do play them now.
Yeah, I think it's a hard situation at the club at the minute. I hope it does get sorted out in the long run, because it's got a big past like Ipswich Town, so you don't really want to see any club go under in that kind of respect, really.
While you've been here, I've seen you've been out with the injured players, John Nolan, Gwen Edwards and Freddie Sears. What have you been doing with them?
So in the mornings wise, basically they taught you through routine of the day. We've been bike riding in the morning, which we'll do like 10 miles. Just around the countryside around here, so it's nice to just get them out in the morning, get a bit of cardio in straight away. Then basically coming for some treatment, and then we'll do a specific rehab sessions. So with Nolan, he'll be doing his calf strengthening. Guion will be doing more like his trunk and pubis strengthening, and with Freddie will go and do his gym work, which is basically a lot of leg strengthening for his around his knee.
How have the lads looked?
Yeah.
Freddie's obviously been out for a while, but the two
Yeah,
other
no,
ones
Freddie. It's been a good week for Freddie really, because he's literally had one-on-one, and he's been able to do a lot throughout. He's been enjoying the bike rides, getting some endurance in his legs, so he's really enjoyed the week. He's took it in full stride. Guillaume looking well. We got him on the grass, starting to do a bit of running, so that'll be a progression really with him. And then with Nolan, we're looking to get him on the grass in the next few days really.
I guess with Freddie, it's a really delicate injury to deal with.
Yeah, I think with Freddie, with it being 6 months, around that period, it's mentally it's quite challenging. But if you break it down into little stages, it makes it a lot better. And with him being at the 4-month marker, we'll be looking to hopefully next month start progressing onto the grass.
What was the thinking behind it being 10 days out here as opposed to the conventional week?
For it being that is so it would tie in with the tournament that we're playing next Sunday. The games were fantastic and too good to turn down. It'd be a real test for us, as was yesterday. To go and play a Bundesliga team was a challenge for us, a massive challenge, and one that we knew the lads would be comfortable with, and they would do them good. There's no point in taking games that you're going to go and win 10-0, 11-0 and stuff like that. We wanted to be tested right from the start, and the lads have come back in good nick, and they're in a position to go and be tested, so it was good.
I know it's obviously a bit of an obvious question, but how important is this stage of the season for the players? Because Paul said it many a time that the season starts in July, it doesn't start in August, so how important is this period for you guys and staff?
Yeah, it's very important. It's where you get all your groundworks done. It's where you get all your basic work in terms of fitness, but also in terms of shape and any ideas that you want to put across to the players. Even doing set pieces and stuff, you can really go into the nitty gritty. With taking them away to a place like this, it gives you the opportunity to work with them in the morning, in the afternoon, and also at night. So you can cram in as many sessions as you possibly can. And when we come in October, we did try and put in as much information to the lads, and they were very receptive to everything that we gave to them. But it really doesn't get close to the work that you can do and the information you can get across in pre-season. It's about getting a good base of stamina, but also getting the high intensity runs in. But combining that with patterns of play and a playing philosophy that the lads did very well with last season, but maybe stepping it up again and putting another few additions to it. But again, there's so much more there's so many more layers that you can add to it, which coming over to a place like this certainly helps.
It's a great 1-2 if you meant it.
Chef Adam here from Ipswich town, just on tour in Germany with the gaffer and the first team. Just want to show everyone a little video of my German that I've learnt today. 5 days, 7 days of the week. 7 days of the week.
So what I'll do, I'll start off and you repeat.
Yeah, no worries, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Montag.
Montag.
Dienstag.
Dienstag.
Mittwoch.
Mittwoch.
Donnerstag.
Donnerstag.
Freitag.
Freitag.
Samstag.
Samstag.
Sonntag.
Sonntag.
And that concludes me doing German lessons with Sean Connery.
Here in Germany, I'm also overseeing the kitchen, whereas back home in the training ground, I'm running the kitchen as such. So just keeping the chefs in line, keeping an eye on what food they're putting out, adding tips and hints to what they can do to improve it for the lads, just to make sure that the lads are getting all the nutrition they need and all the good qualities of the food that they can take in.
So you're speaking about food there, what sort of food do you put on, and is there any special requirements?
Not so much any special requirements, it's just a lot of pasta dishes, carbohydrates. In the mornings, putting out a lot of red berries, which helps the recovery process. Little techniques, like just putting spinach through the pasta, lots of olive oil, that sort of stuff, just to get the nutrition into the lads. If they wouldn't necessarily touch a bowl of spinach, but they might consume it with a tray of pasta sitting there. Yeah, it's such good variety, really.
How important do you see your role at the club with the lads getting
Very
right?
important, yeah, really important. One for like morale, to keep the morale high, putting out good quality food. They've got something to look forward to when they come in. Obviously the nutritional side of it, feeding them after the game, on away games, on the coach. Yeah, and then putting out the odd little treat now and again, just to keep spirits going.
Good. Who gives you the most stick at the training ground at the club?
Well, there's a couple that I need to say, but I'm going to get more stick.
Go and name names.
Right.
They're not going to hear you.
Right.
Just say
Searsy will pick up
Freddie,
on this.
huh?
Yeah, Searsy.
Is he a nightmare?
Nightmare.
Is he?
Yeah,
In what ways?
He's not too bad, but he's calmed down a bit now.
Do you think you put him in his place? Do you think?
Yeah, Searsy. And the other one, Toto.
Right.
Yeah. Toto, crispy pancake. He thinks he's a chef himself, but not a chance.
No, do you not think so?
Nah, no chance.
Who's the fussiest eater at the club?
Fussiest eater?
Don't look at me.
I have to say you, Stu, actually. I'm going to have to say you.
No chance. No, there must be somebody fussier than me. That's just because you keep putting bones in
Fussiest eater. To be honest, I never get much stick on the food because the variety out there. There's always something for somebody. But Searsy's pretty bang on the chicken.
That's it, bang on the chicken.
Chicken, yeah. Chicken has to be out there.
Oh no, he's... You bought that? Have you bought that? Right, you got that thing? Yeah. Alright. Go for it again. Take two. I'm getting off one.
What still happened?
Hey, it's a frying pan. Here we go. Hey, you come on.
Frank gave me commitment.
Yeah!
Headmaster!
So that one. Und das X.
Oh, here.
There's a case of water under there.
No, there's not.
It fell out somehow, I'm not sure.
No, you put it under there. Can you get the case of water out for us? You need both beds. Get bullied.
By who?
This club.
By who?
Players.
Who bullies you?
Gaffer. Stuart.
Yeah.
Big Jim, but I let him get away with it because he's big. And he get you in a headlock. I can still do it though.
It is. It's a never-ending job, if I'm honest. From morning to night, it's relentless, really. It's obviously checking that the players have got everything that they need. We obviously know that they're quite precious and want everything certain sizes. Studs changed. The balls need pressuring. It is quite relentless, but it's an enjoyable job, and I don't know what I'd do without it, to be honest with you.
Staff are quite relentless as well at the same time, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm not going to name any names, but yeah, I think it must be a Scottish thing.
Yeah, so the players, there's a lot that goes into it in the players and setting up the kit. We can see in the dressing room today at Methven, but there is a lot that goes into it, isn't there?
Yeah, there's not a lot actually these pre-season games that they need. It's pretty much shirts, shorts and socks. But when we go for a league game, it's the list is endless, to be honest with you. And you wouldn't think that you'd need all that for a fixture. But packing for a pre-season trip to Germany, needs to be a sort of collective thing throughout the coaching staff and myself, really, just so that we know that we've got everything, the essentials, and we get through it. And we've enjoyed a really good time here, so we just want to end it on a high today and go home with a nice little trophy to start the season.
You obviously drove over here with all the kit and took pretty much everything except the kitchen sink, didn't you?
Yeah, I only got here yesterday. No, it was a long drive. It was an 8-hour ferry drive, and well, it's not a drive, actually, I had to sleep. But it was an 8-hour journey on the boat, and then 3 hours from Hook of Holland over to the romantic hotel where we're staying, which is in the middle of nowhere. So it'd be nice to actually speak to family, because we've had no Wi-Fi. But it was good. It's a nice little drive. I think people think that you've pulled the short straw and having to come on the ferry, but I enjoy it. It's nice. It's different. I'd rather that than keep flying. So.
What kind of stuff do you have in the back?
Well, I'll put it this way, I had to put a bit more air in the tyres, because we had most of the gymnasium in the back for the players in rehab and obviously their gym sessions. So Jim Henry piled on a lot of his stuff, and I think he forgot that I actually had to take some kit with me. So we took quite a lot of stuff, match kit, training wear, and obviously the gym stuff, physio equipment, and we actually brought head tennis nets. But they actually had head tennis nets here, so we could have done with a bit of room in the van. But it's what it is. We're here now. We've got it all, and we just want to end on a high today.
Having formerly been a player yourself, does that help you in this job, knowing that the demands of the players and what they need?
Yeah, it does. It helps with the demands, because obviously the players are very needy. I don't remember being like that when I was playing, but I think we were limited back then to when it was pretty much one size fits all. So the likes of Freddie Sears, he wouldn't be able to fit in an extra large, but we had to back then, So they get a lot of choice with sizes in their kits, and they have a certain number of boots they want for games, and different size warm-up tops, and even down to the slips. I mean, that's a terrible thing. I wouldn't touch them if I were you.
That's the part-time kitman you hear. Full-time comedian.
I'm the club massage therapist, so predominantly soft tissue therapy, massage all week, pre-game, post-game, and recovery.
So what does that entail in terms of post-match, pre-match and training?
So before games is all a bit pre-match, it's a lot more faster, vigorous, make the blood flow, getting ready to go out and do the warm-up before the game. Post-massage, post-game, is all about recovery. So it's a lot slower, flushing, just helping recovery, ready for the next day's training, really.
I'm sure there's more players than others that are really into it and really at you all the time.
Yep, of course. And there's some players that are fairly needy, some players not so much. I'm not mentioning any names.
Is it the older players that maybe need a little bit more just to keep things going, or is it everyone the same?
I think with more experience, they tend to look after themselves more. So they generally do everything as a whole better, from nutrition to hydration to massage, yes.
So what is it that you sort of add to their game, and how do you help them that goes out there and perform?
So most of my work's done during the week. Train every day, 5 days a week, it's going to be tough. So every day we just kind of keep on top of it. The last little bit on a Friday night before the game or the Saturday morning before the game is all about game prep. So that generally all the work's done up until the game.
How do you help with the injured players?
So I assist the medical team, physios, so they'll have their rehab part of it, and then soft tissue is recovery again. Generally, sports massage is all about recovery. It's about aiding them to perform at the best possible chance they can, really.
other than obviously the quality that they bring, what else do the German sides, as a contest, what would they give us that maybe sides back home wouldn't do?
It's just a different game. The ball doesn't move any slower. The ball just moves as quick as what it does. Physically, they'll be big lads that do it. They'll play a little bit differently. They'll be patient with the ball. They're a good side, Dusseldorf. They're a really good side. They said they've got a cracking stadium in Dusseldorf. I've been there, been to the training ground, so I know, as I said, a lot about it. But it's a tough game for where the two clubs are.
A number of supporters, I think, travelling over for this game as well. So I'm sure it'll be nice to see them again.
I think what I do think is great is the two clubs have got a great relationship. So I think it'll be a great atmosphere there with the two teams. So I know the Dusseldorf fans came over and when we played Rotherham game, I think it was, and the atmosphere was fabulous. So if we can keep that bond and that connection with the two clubs, not just this year but for years to come, it's going to be a great asset. So, but listen, it's pre-season. The result never matters. It's the fitness and a way of playing, and everybody's enjoying the football. And when it starts for real, that's when it matters.